Hey y'all, Data Guy here. And today I'm coming at you with another AI video. This time not with ChatGPT, but we're actually gonna be looking at Bard today, which is like Google's updated, newer ChatGPT. And so when it first came out, I know we all saw the memes, Bard kind of sucked, but they've actually done a good job updating it so it mimics kind of what ChatGPT does, but it uses much more current data. So ChatGPT is restricted to data before 2021, just because that's what the training set was used on. Whereas Bard actually uses all the latest data because Google is just an absolute data maven, so they're able to flood that model with as much data as it needs to stay current. Now, why this is relevant for Airflow is because Airflow development has accelerated a lot since 2021. 2.0 came out in 2021, so right around when the ChatGPT cutoff is for data. So it isn't really that great at making current DAGs that like utilize all the latest features of Airflow, like deferrable operators, and even just some operators. It uses a really old and archaic way of designing your DAGs. So after I made that video looking at DAGs within ChatGPT, I wanted to uplevel it, and I wanted to look at, hey, you know what else really sucks about Airflow is writing operators that don't exist. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's extremely annoying, especially if you're doing it for maybe an unsupported system. Extending a snowflake operator to take another argument or do some extra function isn't that hard, but creating one from scratch can be really difficult. But not anymore, because with Bard, you can actually have Bard create Airflow operators for you that you can then use. And it's pretty good at this, like shockingly good. So what I did to start out and what you should do at home is just first, hey, can you write me an Airflow operator to interact with Bard? I figured why not get super recursive with it and just say, hey, can you write me an Airflow operator to interact with you? And so here, what it did is it'll actually take the Python base operator and then extend it to be the Bard operator. So you can see here, it's got some args, just task ID and which question we want to ask the Bard AI. And it's also defaulting your connection to your Bard API key. Now, something I didn't know before I started this is that the Bard API access is still locked. So this actually won't work in practice. But once they open up API access to everyone else, it should actually work. So you can see here, and that's just one of the things about this is you do need to actually look through the code, make sure it's correct. Things like URLs, it doesn't do an amazing job of handling. You can see it's really good at like doing Jinja templating, but this bar.ai endpoint doesn't actually exist. So there are some kinks still to be worked out here. But I just want to show you kind of what this looks like overall. So it's taking the Python operator and basically just executing a API request in Python, taking the variables that we're passing it. So just task ID, query. So task ID isn't really relevant, but the query is, and then it's just returning the response. So essentially just templatizing a Python operator that interacts with Bard. But really, that's what a lot of operators are doing under the hood, is they're taking a super basic extension like Bard, or sorry, not like Bard, but like Python or Bash, and then just extending it to whatever service they want to interact with. Because at the end of the day, an operator is just a way to simplify having to write all that code every time you want to interact with the service. So if you want to use this either to create fresh operators or just extend existing ones, it just saves you a lot of headache of having to parse through and figure it all out yourself. And then after you're done, it'll actually give you all the details about it. So it'll tell you, hey, these are the arguments it needs to take. This is what you'll actually have to do to make this usable in real life. So you'll notice it doesn't actually have an import request library, so you'll need to add that, create the Bard API key, but it does tell you where you'll be using the Bard API or Bard operator. And then what you can do is even write an Airflow DAG that uses that Bard operator they just created. So you can see here, basically just writing a basic query, what's the weather in SF, good old AI is super creative, and then just echoing it using Jinja templating with a Bash operator. So simple stuff, but pretty useful. You can see that Airflow 2.5, so you can actually specify which version of Airflow, and that's a big advantage over ChatGPT, is ChatGPT doesn't use things like TaskFlow APIs. It doesn't use the latest and greatest Airflow features, so that's why I really prefer Bard here. So if you want to make any customizations, you realize anything's wrong, you can also just say, hey, add some keyword arguments. So it wasn't using keyword arguments, was failing to initialize in my local environment. So I said, hey, use some keyword arguments, and I'll change it to your specifications. And you can see also what it would look like to actually run it in place. But yeah, really simple stuff, but really powerful. So go check out Bard. I promise I'm not a Google shill, but I really like it, and I might be canceling my ChatGPT subscription for Bard because there's really not much of a reason to use ChatGPT other than the better plugins. But that's a whole other story. So I hope you learned something. I hope you check it out and try it out for yourself. And have a good one. Peace.